easy. These are on a slick tyre. He's gone right across the infield. And that's the beauty of Phillip Island for bike riders. They do have some run-off room. Meanwhile, big attack from the teammate. And look at this down the inside. Willis now trying to get that position back. We'll have a look at that Shell Helix replay. And Connell gets a little bit tangled up with the Kawasaki. Then he's way offline. And all he has to do is try and keep this bike up on two wheels. And he does a fabulous job.
Terrific job, Craig Connell. Well, he is an ex-Australian dirt track champion, so that's come in pretty handy at the moment. Well done, Craig. He's hung on to that quite well. We get back. It's the two Ansett Air Freight Suzukis. Troy Bayliss, Mark Willis sitting in second. Marty Craggle on the Kawasaki still maintains third, ahead of bike number 5 sitting back there. Steve Martin on board the Melbourne Suzuki. Then we pick up Damon Buckmaster back in 5th position.
Troy Bayliss from Taree, New South Wales, just 28 years of age. Run the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki, showing a lot of speed. Started racing back in 1979 in the Honda CR80. Had his first road race in 91 in the Kawasaki 250cc Proddies. But he's had the big step up to production superbikes, and he's really showing his form here as he leads them down. Pit straight, Willis, Bayliss, Craggle, Connell, Martin, Buckmaster, Giles, Maxwell, Moss, and Vanellini.
Trying to make an inside move there was Steve Martin on Marty Craggle, but it didn't come off. We watch our race leader now. He's got the 97 spec machine as opposed to his teammate Mark Willis, who's on the 96 spec machine. And Troy's just got a couple of extra horsepower over his teammate, not too much in it. Here's the Shell Helix race score. Bayliss, Willis, Craggle, Martin, Buckmaster. They are your top 5 at the moment. Have a look at this scrap for third spot. Steve Martin really starting to apply the pressure now to Marty Craggle.
Craggle looking very fast on the Kawasaki. You can see how hard they're pushing these bikes to flex through the frame. A tremendous torsional stiffness on these chassis. They're handmade, but you can see how much power they're trying to put through the bike when they get the big wobbles up at somewhere near 300 kilometres an hour.
Keep this in mind. The guy sitting in second spot, Mark Willis, is only 20 years of age, and this is only his third ever superbike ride, so he's got a huge future. He's going extremely well. The Ansett Air Freight Suzuki team had a good weekend last weekend at Baskerville in Tasmania at the Australian Road Race Championships as Willis comes up on his teammate now. This top 4 are starting to bunch up beautifully.
Steve Martin applying plenty of pressure to Craggle as they bring it back toward pit straight once again. The Suzuki's showing plenty of power, plenty of top speed as they head down pit straight once again. 4 laps to go in this 7-lapper. Thrilling dice from the Superbike riders at Phillip Island this afternoon. Martin Craggle now trying to make up that room for the Suzukis as they used to on the Kawasaki's. Lots of top-end speed. They've had plenty of power, these bikes. And look at the attack from Steve Martin. Up the inside, but not quite enough territory there to make a move. He has to push back to 4th.
The guy sitting in 4th, Steve Martin, 270 kilometres an hour for our race leader. That's a very good effort, very fast indeed. Steve Martin, it's a privateer entry. These 3 bikes in front are all factory machines. The 2 Ansett Air Freight bikes out in front, and the Team Kawasaki Australia entry sitting in 3rd with Marty Craggle. So Steve Martin's doing a tremendous job sitting there in that 4th spot.
So braking hard now for Honda corner. The Ansett Air Freight Suzuki's in control. Look at the way he slides it in on the brakes there. Bayliss right on the limit of adhesion. Marty Craggle on the Kawasaki. Steve Martin applying more and more pressure in 4th position. They come out through Siberia. There's your order. Willis, Craggle, Martin, Buckmaster a little bit further behind this battle. Giles, Moss, Maxwell, Vanellini and Connell. That's the top 10. And that great shot there of Marty Craggle attacking that corner as they sweep up toward Lukey Heights once again.
Keep your eyes on that battle. 2nd and 3rd. Mark Willis, I think, may have a tough time hanging on to it. Marty Craggle gets him under brakes. Here we go. Off Lukey Heights down into MG. Craggle having a look on the inside, but he's a little further back. Meanwhile, Willis is concentrating on Bayliss, who gets a little out of shape. Just stepped out on him coming out of MG corner. That's given Willis a little more incentive.
That's the scariest moment on a motorcycle. You see so many motorcycle racers come off in that situation. The rear tyre bites in and flicks them off like a bucking bronco. Look at the wobble on the Ansett Suzuki there as they come across. And there's a big attack now from Craggle. That slowed him up. Willis was a little bit slow coming down the straight. He must have left it off, and Craggle now tries to take advantage. Martin down the inside. Now Willis coming back at him. They'll go side by side as they head up towards the Southern Loop once again. Great racing.
Steve Martin got a beautiful slingshot, and he's there in the 3rd spot ahead of Mark Willis now. He's a gutsy young rider, though. He won't give in. So a couple of elevations of positions there. Craggle now in 2nd, Martin in 3rd. Watch Willis under brakes as they come around this part of the circuit and head into Honda corner. Mark Willis, he won't like being pushed back there into 4th spot as we watch Marty Craggle sitting in 2nd. Here we go. Here's the duel under brakes.
Big attack from Willis on the outside. Hasn't been able to make up any territory there. 20-year-old Mark Willis from Narrabri, New South Wales. Gutsy little racer, and he will not be happy about having that little tank slapper on the straight. That's cost him dearly.
We are closing down in this race. There is not too much longer to go. Bayliss' machine and Willis as well. They're getting the wobbles. It's starting to get a little untidy towards the end of this one. Craggle hasn't got much time left to catch Troy Bayliss. Martin has done extremely well to sit there in third. Steve Martin on board the Melbourne Suzuki to stay in touch with the Zurich Kawasaki rider of Marty Craggle.
Keep in mind what these guys, it's 160 kilograms, 162 kilograms to be exact. The Superbike, it's got 160 horsepower. They're revving them to somewhere in the region of 14,000 RPM. This is not an easy job.
Bayliss has got a buffer. That shot shows it well. The action is 2 and 3. Keep your eyes on that. Marty Craggle, Steve Martin. We have got 2 laps left to run. Here we go. Let's see what's going to happen this time round. Mark Willis has dropped off a little bit.
They hook up in this big aerodynamic train. A big attack from the Suzuki down the inside of Craggle. And he's done it too. A beautiful move. Steve Martin on the Melbourne Suzuki. Now Craggle comes back for a run on the outside. It's all happening behind Bayliss. He's running out in clean air, but this carve up for second, third and fourth, absolutely riveting.
Good work, Marty Craggle ducked up the inside. They had a consistent round last weekend also at Baskerville in Tasmania. They didn't win the meeting. Troy Bayliss on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki did, but the Kawasaki's were consistent. Both Craggle and Buckmaster. Here goes Steve Martin having a look at Marty Craggle into Honda corner. Here's your Shell Helix race score. Bayliss, Craggle, Martin, Willis and Buckmaster, top 5. We look back 6 through 10. Giles, Craig Connell has done extremely well to claw his way up into 7th. Moss, Maxwell and Vanellini.
This is good stuff from Steve Martin on the Melbourne Suzuki. He can be very proud of this effort, mixing it with the factory bikes. Just 27 years of age from Chadstone and Victoria, and he's really attacking a fantastic quartet. These bikes are so evenly matched. The rider's very evenly matched, and it's anyone's guess who's going to win this one.
The standard of riding here in Australia is very good. We saw that in the opening round of the World Superbike Championship, just how well Troy Bayliss did up against the world's best. He did very, very well. And currently, I think he runs 5th in the World Championship, so not too bad.
Speaking of World Championships, the always dominant V-twin Ducatis from Italy, 6 times World Champion. We normally see them up here mixing it with the Japanese bikes. That exit from Connell early on in the race, he's left it to the Japanese marks. Look at the wheel stand there. As he gets the wheel right up in the air. Bayliss almost a celebratory, but here comes a big attack from Martin down the inside. And Willis is going to have a go too. They're almost 3 wide as they come through the turn once again. Oh, look at Craggle around the outside.
Mark Willis is trying everything. He has finally caught up with his pack of 3 and trying to work his way in. He's gone the outside now on Marty Craggle. Have a look at this young guy go. He's unbelievable.
Well, Bayliss might think he's got one. He just pulled the wheel up in the air that time through the start-finish line last lap, and now he's getting plenty of pressure from Steve Martin as he winds up the Melbourne Suzuki one more time. He's going to have a crack at the lead as they head up toward Honda corner for the final time.
If Mark Willis can gain some metres on Steve Martin, put your money on him for second. If he can get close to Steve Martin going down off Lukey Heights into MG corner, he'll try something. He hates being back. He likes to be up the front. He'd like to be there with his Ansett Air Freight teammate.
Well, don't forget, Willis qualified second. He was running up in second. He lost that with that little drama coming onto the straight. That time there's a lot of flex through the frame of those Suzukis. They've really got to wobble, particularly when they get their power on coming out of Siberia. But that's not slowing him down at all.
Bayliss very wide out of that turn. Keep your eyes on the 3rd place in Mark Willis. He is all over the back of Steve Martin. Here we go. Will he have a run down the inside coming into MG? He does. Have a look at Mark Willis. Will he get there? What a move. Beautiful move by Mark Willis. Fantastic.
That was one of the best overtaking moves you'll ever see on 2 wheels. No lock brake, just beautifully judged right down to the last centimetre and snuck up the inside. Great racing. Look at this attack. A final quarter attack.
Martin comes back on the inside of Mark Willis. It's the drag down the main straight. It looks pretty safe for an Ansett Air Freight Suzuki 1-2, but Steve Martin comes out of the draft and he's got him. Steve Martin, how about that? Got him by about a wheel. Unbelievable stuff. Wow, Troy Bayliss in for the win. There he is. Well done to him. But how about 2nd and 3rd, Mark Willis and Steve Martin? Martin, to our eyes anyway, off the screen, he got there. There's Craig Connell flashing across as well. He ended up back in 7th position.
Well, I'm still trying to catch my breath. That is some of the best racing you'll ever see. The Superbikes, they really turn it on. I don't know what it is about the layout of Phillip Island, but it just creates so many passing opportunities for the Superbikes, and the racing always spectacular.
What a wonderful run from Troy Bayliss. He did very, very well, but the battle was for the minor placings. Mark Willis, the 20-year-old youngster, in only his third Superbike ride, really fought very, very hard with Steve Martin. He also had some good scraps with Marty Craggle as well, who ended up finishing back in 4th position. Here is the final placings. Bayliss in for the win from Steve Martin. He did get there. Mark Willis in for 3rd, Marty Craggle in for 4th, and Damon Buckmaster in for 5th. Stick around. More after this break.
Hi, I'm Wayne Gardner.
What's required to put them together, Ken?
Yeah, Superbike racing is expensive, but let's not forget it is the premier level of racing in Australia. There is a World Championship, there's an Australian Championship, and the guy on pole, Troy Bayliss, he's only half a second off the outright lap record for this circuit. So that's how competitive this grid is.
It certainly is going to be competitive. We're expecting to see some big things from the Ducatis. They have been fast. Let's have a look as they head under the Dunlop Bridge for the first run. Oh, strong start there for Connell. He looks good. And, of course, the senior rider in the team, you'd expect him to make a good run. Everyone looking just to sort of settle down. Tyres not up to temperature yet. Bayliss, though, from pole position, will lead them into the Southern Loop for the first time. That's Mark Willis, bike 68, his teammate. We've seen some fire from that young man into the bargain. Craggle sitting in 2nd place. Then it's back to Martin. Then it's Willis. This is a big start for these guys, Kenwood, and I think really everybody just trying to, well, sort out who's who in the zoo. Look at Bayliss. Oh, very loose heading into Honda.
That's how he rides a real, loose on the way out, loose on the way in. Steve Martin behind, also getting flicked out of the seat on the Ducati. What was interesting on that first lap is Craig Connell, who, we've lost a rider at, looks like Honda Corner. Can't quite pick up the number from here. Could be Scott Webster, one of our privateers on a Yamaha YZF 750, but let's hope he's A-OK. Looks like they're waving for an ambulance. Webster seems to have very heavy high side there. Probably had the wind knocked out of him coming out now. At least we know he'll be in good medical care. That's a very quick response.
Yes, I think the organisers doing the right thing there, deciding immediately they would red flag the race. That means we have a restart, and it will be a restart for full race distance. Let's have a look and see who manages to do it a second time. The pressure's on Bayliss, but again, Connell, the absolute flyer of a start from the Ducati rider. Bayliss up the inside into 2nd place. He's already forcing the issue, and we've got Craggle trying round the outside on cold tyres. That is a brave, brave move down into the Southern Loop. Speeds close to 180 kilometres an hour. That is very, very quick on cold tyres. Connell, though, will lead them down for the first time. Craggle looks desperate. This is going to come down to some late braking into Honda. What's Craggle going to do? Up the inside he goes. If he can hold this, he's ridden himself into the lead. That's Bayliss sitting back in 3rd place. His teammate, Willis, now moves up into 4th. This is very close, and it's so early on in the race. I don't think they can keep this pace for the entire distance.
We've seen some great Superbike racing over the last few rounds, not only in this Shell Advanced Series, but also the Shell Superbike Series that runs with the V8 touring cars. And Marty Craggle, he's on a roll. He's won 4 races in succession in that sister series, and doing his best here to hold off the Ducati of Craig Connell and also Troy Bayliss on the Suzuki. But the Kawasaki's, they've found some pace this season. As Bayliss cuts under the inside of Connell, he's after that green Kawasaki up ahead. But as I was saying, the Kawasaki's, they've found some pace. Looks like we've lost Alistair Maxwell. There's action on every corner. Kawasaki's faster this season. They've got a new gear drive for their cam system, and Marty Craggle putting that to great use down the front straight. They'll reach speeds of approaching 285 kilometres an hour. Bayliss with a wiggle from the Suzuki. Connell out of the slipstream. He's after Craggle. We've got Kawasaki, Ducati, Suzuki. Great mix of machinery.
Certainly is right at the moment. I think Bayliss desperate to try and take the chase right to the front. He does not want Martin Craggle to get away. By the same token, here's Buckmaster, his teammate, trying to keep up. Either way you look at it, no one wants to see anyone get the break. Craggle, though, determined, head down. You can see his head bobbing around in the air. He really is struggling with the bike. He's not struggling as hard as this one. Have a look at that as Bayliss. The bike just starting to squirm, and really, he must have a pretty tight setup on it, Ken, in order for it to behave like that. Normally at Phillip Island, you would expect them to maybe have a little bit of trail, a little bit of stability, but it seems that he's set it up to try and get it into the corners and make it steer quickly. That's the result. You get a tank slapper. you wouldn't want it to get any worse.
No, there's a little bit of a bump under the Dunlop Bridge down the front straight as well, and that can set up that shimmy, particularly when you pull out of the slipstream and get the disturbed air. But nothing's disturbing Marty Craggle. He is so determined. When you see him tucked in behind the screen, he's got those mad eyes painted on the top of his helmet. He's the biggest bloke in the field, but he drapes himself right over that ZX7 RR Kawasaki. He has to make sure that he's got the right aerodynamic shape to cut through the wind. We see Steve Martin on bike 5 all out of shape as he came out of turn 11. He's really adapting to this Ducati. It's only his second race on it after swapping from his privateer Melbourne Suzuki GSX-R 750. Look at the speed here. This is a great ride from Buckmaster on bike number 4. He broke his collarbone a couple of meetings ago. He's still riding with a 30-degree misalignment. It's still got a fracture in it. He slots up to second. Bayliss comes through underneath. There's no love lost between these two. They swap teams in the off-season. Now Bayliss tries to cut to the inside. Evenly matched bikes, very determined riders.
Great ride here from the pair of the Ducati riders. In fact, you can see now teammates starting to battle each other. That's always one of the best battles on any racetrack anywhere, when teammates decide to start carving each other up. It is Craggle by not very much at the moment. Troy Bayliss sitting back in second position. He is desperate to try and make some ground, as is his teammate Damon Buckmaster. But win, lose or draw, it is Craggle at the moment just hanging on. Then you've got this Ansett Air Freight Suzuki of Troy Bayliss. The next one is Steve Martin. Oh, who's that? Vanellini, Daniel Vanellini has found himself on the deck, and well, I think he's worked out which way to go. As we get back to this chase at the front, absolutely electric here at Phillip Island. Now Steve Martin up into second position on the Ducati. He's on home turf, based here in Melbourne, and you can bet that he is determined to put his best foot forward. A great ride from him. Craig Connell, the second man in the team, in fact the lead rider in the team, very experienced, ex-250 Australian champion, two-time 250 champion, and he's not quite as quick as his teammate. I'm sure he's going to do his best to fix that again. Late on brakes as they head down into Honda. These three riders, let's have a look on replay here, and you can see just how the back steps out. Nothing like plenty of horsepower to get the rear tyre spinning. A little bit of oversteer, but it is still Zurich Team Kawasaki's rider Martin Craggle in charge, flies under the Shell Bridge. Now the question is, what can Troy Bayliss do about this? He's sitting back in third position. A replay there of Daniel Vanellini's dramas, and he popped a bit of a knock on the head. I think that's why he was a little bit dazed as to which way was safe. Either way, these three guys know which way's safe. It's going to get them to the flag. They are absolutely pulling out all stops to do this. And you can see where the Ducati, Ken, really does have some advantages. Just short out of the corner, it is very, very good. Gets good traction. These are new 1997 spec machines that Steve Martin and Craig Connell are riding. They run on Michelin tyres, and the bike that we saw Vanellini step off, that's one of the ex-Ducati dealer team bikes that was sold off to that privateer team. But Steve Martin, this Ducati, it's really got some top-end mumbo. 996 cc's and quite a few improvements, but he's really got his hands full with these two 750cc machines. Bayliss and Craggle shoveling it right underneath Troy Bayliss through there. Marty Craggle is the hardest rider in the field. All the other riders will say that. He's not afraid to bump handlebars, rub elbows, particularly under brakes. Troy Bayliss is probably the most spectacular. As we see that, he dives underneath. He likes his bike loose. He rides it seemingly, look at that, out of control, seemingly out of control as he comes into Honda corner, and Steve Martin takes advantage and cuts underneath both of them. But Troy Bayliss has said no, he thinks it's quite smooth. He doesn't notice it moving around. Let's look on the replay. Got the back end stepping out, still, I guess, rear wheel steers it into the corner, gets out a little wide, and Marty Craggle tries to come through, and Steve Martin cuts under both of them. Steve Martin, we said this is a brand new model Ducati for this year. It's only his second race meeting on it, and he has adapted to it exceptionally well. He loves the Phillip Island circuit, and these three, any one of them can win. It could very well come down to a slipstream down the straight the last time. But some fantastic superbike racing. There's little doubt Steve Martin's settling quickly into this role. In fact, have a look at him here. He really does look a part of the motorcycle. Local knowledge does play a major part here at Phillip Island. These guys test here whenever they can. Testing days fairly limited here at Phillip Island, so you don't often get the chance to come and test as you would choose to, possibly at any other circuit. But you can see now that Bayliss just not prepared to let him go, comes out of the slipstream, and thank you very much, straight back into the lead. And Craggle sitting back in third. He won't be too happy about that. Now, we know Craggle is fast in this area, heading down into the southern loop. For some reason, he seems to be able to get a lot of mid-corner speed out of his Kawasaki. He definitely likes the front end pushing, whereas when you watch Bayliss, he loves to have the back end out. And as Ken Wootton was alluding to, it's the ultimate rear steer technique. Virtually dirt tracks it into this corner, Honda corner. Let's see how he goes this time. Martin up the inside. So Steve Martin, nice and tidy, kept it all together and has done exactly what he hoped to do a lap before, only this time he's done it without the other guys making an error and letting him through. Bayliss, though, the pressure on. He wants to keep reeling off these wins. He already has 2 wins out of the first round when we're in Tasmania. And look at this, Craggle back up the inside, heading for the hay shed. Now they're heading for MG. Up and over Lukey Heights brings them down into this very tricky right-hander called MG, and you can really get yourself into trouble here if you haven't squared the machine up prior to trying to make it change direction. Here, they will stand out, first or second gear, depending on what type of gearing you put on your motorcycle. But Martin, look at this, he's using all of the track. Bayliss's bike seems very, very nervous today. It might be a different setup, possibly he just wants it to behave that way so as he can steer it in. There's Sean Giles, winner of the first 600 Supersport race. Remember that it was the race just before this one, so that man has done some laps around here already. Last lap. What can Craggle do? Well, he says, I'll try round the outside just to be a little bit different. Martin will fight back, can't do anything with it. This is a heady ride from Martin Craggle on their last lap. He's really thinking about where he's got to be, and right at the moment he's got to try and break away so as there's no chance of a slipstream beating him to the flag. Bayliss, oh, look at this, tries up the inside, heading for Honda. This is tight. Now, who is the latest breaker here? Let's have a look. Craggle defending the inside line. Will that work for him? Given that he doesn't run wide, Martin can't do anything with it, but Bayliss sure can. Thank you very much. Martin a little bit wide. Don't give that kind of a chance to Troy Bayliss anywhere, anytime.
Troy Bayliss now, he's got to be in a good position to take this win out. He's going to have the slipstream down the straight on Marty Craggle. We know the Suzuki's a little faster. What he's got to hope is that Steve Martin doesn't get in the way and slow down his run. But Marty Craggle leads them up over Lukey Heights. He's only got 3 corners to go. The long, lanky Victorian right off the side of this Zurich Kawasaki. He knows he's got his ex-teammate Troy Bayliss clamped to the ducktail around turn 11. Very important to get the power on early here. They need a good drive around turn 12. That could cost Craggle dearly. The Kawasaki getting out of shape. He will have lost a little bit of momentum, and we've got Bayliss now within striking distance. What Bayliss needs is to get into that slipstream. He's there, he pulls out. Craggle tries to run him over to the wall, but it is Troy Bayliss. Bayliss gets through from 3rd position on the last lap up to take the win, and boy is he happy.
Superb ride from Troy Bayliss, Team Ansett Air Freight Suzuki, and he will be one very, very happy chappy. The crowd here at Phillip Island ecstatic. What a performance for the first race in round 2 here at the island. Super Trucks making their very pumped up Sean Giles, and he will be on his motorcycle and making his way to the grid for this, the 2nd Superbike race, round 2 here at Phillip Island of the 1997 Shell Advance Australian Road Racing Championships. From pole position, Troy Bayliss, beside him Steve Martin and Mark Willis, the 2nd of the Suzuki riders, Ken Wootton. I think it's going to be tough, and I think that Steve Martin is going to be very hard to beat.
Well, I don't think we've seen a Superbike race all season where there's been more than a few bike lengths separating the leaders. As the green light flashes, they're off. Not a moment's hesitation, and it's Craig Connell on that 996cc Ducati, that big V-twin that guns it down into turn 1 and leads them through the first time. But just as in the first race, it doesn't last for long. Troy Bayliss, bike number 3, our series leader, our first race winner. He's through to the lead, and he's going to be a hard man to catch from there. Bayliss, very loose, but he's got a very determined Marty Craggle. Let's look for Craggle under brakes into Honda corner. He's renowned as the biggest braker in the business. He's got the biggest set of brakes, and he uses them to good effect there.
He certainly was determined to try and get in early. One of the Ducati riders up and out of the saddle. I think that was Steve Martin. Craig Connell, no, it was Craig Connell, his teammate, but that was a big get up there out of the seat, and it really doesn't get any higher until you find yourself well and truly off the motorcycle and on the deck. Okay, look at the size of this superbike field. Have a look at this on replay. That is as close as you're ever going to get to being thrown over the handlebars, but still managing to maintain control. In fact, I noticed one of the Ducatis pulling off the side of the circuit. They've got a bit of a problem. No problems at all, though, for Martin Craggle. In control for the first lap, at least, here at Phillip Island. Troy Bayliss in second position on the Suzuki. These two, a bit of a handy break. It's back to Damon Buckmaster, and that is Craig Connell. So it must have been Steve Martin pulling off to the side of the circuit with problems with his machine. Don't know what it is. It won't detract from this race at the front. The race you're seeing at the moment is for third place. But look at this, the speed of the Suzuki at better than 280 kilometres an hour. He gets up the inside of Martin Craggle, and we've got a problem for the second of the Ducatis, Craig Connell, pulling to the side. Obviously an engine detonation problem. Two Ducatis gone in the first lap and a half.
Yeah, Steve Martin back into the pits with what must have been a misfire, and Craig Connell with a major engine hemorrhage down the straight. Let's look at the replay of Troy Bayliss, the wild man of superbike racing. Front wheel in the air as he gets the power on, rear wheel stepping out of shape. He is spectacular on a motorcycle, but Marty Craggle doesn't look quite as spectacular out of the turns, but he is so determined, and under brakes there is nobody who can hold off Marty Craggle when it comes time to hit the picks. So bike 3, bike 2, these guys ran second and third in the Australian Superbike Championship last year. They were on Kawasaki's last year. Benny Archibald there on bike 69. He was on a Ducati last year. He swapped to a privateer Suzuki, and at least he's still running at the moment. But bad luck for the Ducati team. It's not bad luck for Troy Bayliss. He's got his nose in front. He's won the first 3 races in the 1997 championship. He's looking for 4 in a row, but he's got a very determined Kawasaki rider clamped to his rear wheel. Let's look for the speed down the straight this time. Craggle's in the slipstream, so there's every chance he'll be able to stick with Bayliss as they head into turn 1. This Suzuki is putting out over 150 horsepower at the rear wheel. It's by far the best developed superbike for Suzuki in the world this year, and it's all put together in a little shed in outer Melbourne by Phil Tainton Racing, and Troy Bayliss putting it to good effect.
How many times have we seen these guys, albeit on different motorcycles, duking it out all over the country? This time it is Craggle flying the Kawasaki flag. Behind him it is his teammate Damon Buckmaster. Buckmaster used to ride for the Suzuki team. Each year, new colours, new bikes, new teams, and occasionally we see some new talent coming in. But these are the guys we've seen for the last couple of years doing their thing. Now, the point is, Bayliss under a lot of pressure at the moment. He needs to get in some smooth laps. He needs to try and make the break. Do you think Martin Craggle's going to let him do that? Absolutely not. Craggle, he will dog him as far and as long and as fast as he possibly can down into turn 1. Remember, they are doing better than 280 kilometres per hour. You can imagine the force on the rider, the wind, the pressure, and not only that, you have to be thinking, what am I going to do to beat the guy behind me? This man prepared to do anything, anywhere, anytime. That is Martin Craggle's motto. He is deep on brakes. He gets underneath the fairing. We've talked about the size of the man. He is a big man, hard to hide from the wind, but look at him under brakes. Bayliss, a little bit of a blocking line there, Ken. I think really Bayliss just trying to settle down and get away from Martin Craggle.
In the as we look on the replay, Bayliss right out of shape as he backs the bike into the corner. We've seen Anthony Gobert do that on many occasions, but Bayliss desperately trying to hold off Craggle here. In the first race, Bayliss had rubber marks on his exhaust pipe, and those rubber marks had come from Marty Craggle's front wheel at Honda Corner. Bayliss trying to close every gap, but Marty Craggle doesn't need a gap. He makes them. He's got the nickname Mad Eyes. He's got some Mad Eyes painted on his helmet. He's got No Fear stickers on his helmet. You put the No Fear and the eyes together, and, well, no sooner do we say that, we jinx the man who was pressuring Bayliss. Marty Craggle, too early on the power out of MG Corner. There's no way he's going to get that bike started. So Troy Bayliss way out in front. The second of the group coming through with Damon Buckmaster riding under injury with a sore collarbone, a fractured collarbone in fact. We go back now and look at Buckmaster. He's under all sorts of pressure. He's got Sean Giles clamped to his rear wheel, and just behind them the 21-year-old rookie of the field, Mark Willis. But Buckmaster, we mentioned it before, he's riding with an actual misalignment in this collarbone, and the pressure on those arms and on that shoulder must be immense when he's changing direction, when he's under brakes. But Sean Giles, this is a great ride from him. The problem he's had is getting that bike off the line. The Honda RC45, it's got some new bits, but it's very hard to get mobile. And Giles was saying that he's got to hold it on the rev limiter at 14,000 revs and slip the clutch. Marty Craggle's not going to be worrying about the clutch back there in the pits.
I don't think he looked too pleased. He is A-OK, walk back, but of course he's thinking of the points that he's not earning. And in such a tight season, every single point will count. How about Mark Willis, the young gun, the new find in the season? He's already posted a couple of wins in the Superbike series.
Yeah, Mark Willis is, I guess, he's the reigning winner or reigning champion of the Arcade Chain Samurai Trophy, which is awarded each year to the most improved rider in Australian domestic competition. And past winners have included guys like Michael Doohan, Darryl Beattie, Anthony Gobert, Troy Corser. So he's in pretty good company. He won it in 1996 for his performance on a Supersport machine, signed up by Peter Goddard. He's mixing it with guys here with much more experience. Sean Giles there on bike 19, the mobile Honda RC45. Damon Buckmaster on bike 4, the Zurich Kawasaki. They've got a couple of seasons of Superbike experience behind them. Of course, Sean Giles, a winner of the Shell Superbike series a couple of years ago on the Ducati, the series that runs alongside the V8 supercars. So for Mark Willis to be up there mixing it and swapping fairing paint, bumping handlebars with these guys, and if you talk to him in the pits, he sets his standards so high, he's actually disappointed when he comes second or third, instead of having all that enthusiasm of being the young guy who's running at the front. He actually wants to be winning and winning every race.
Well, he certainly does some mileage travelling to events from Narrabri, and that's not near any racetrack anywhere in the country. So he really does settle into his racing purely on a basis that he wants to win, as you've just alluded to. The fact of the matter is he wants to win outright. He's not interested in second, third or anywhere else. But Mark Willis really is the find. In fact, speaking to Peter Doyle from Kawasaki late last year when they were starting to look for new competitors for their own team, he named Mark Willis as a rider that he would give the keys to the Team Kawasaki bikes to. Looks like Suzuki have picked him up, and haven't they picked up a talent? This battle continues down the straight here at Phillip Island, but that's your leader, Troy Bayliss. What a performance. He's heading for 4 out of 4 races and victory in this, as Mark Willis almost loses the front end. That looked a little tight for him, even tighter for Damon Buckmaster to the outside of him. There is trust beyond belief between these competitors. Riders will go side by side. Here it is again, and you can see that the front went, then he got on the gas and oversteered it out, and I think Buckmaster just pulling back that little bit, trying to stay out of what could have been a rather nasty dilemma for him. There's your leader, Troy Bayliss, fighting boredom at the moment. He's free and clear and really just thinking about keeping it tidy, not making any errors. The next man through, Sean Giles. Then it's Buckmaster and back to Mark Willis. And look at Willis's machine moving around. Ken, it strikes me, both of the Suzuki's fairly steep steering angles. They seem to be very nervous.
Yes, very nimble bikes. The way they're set up, quite firm in the suspension, very steep steering angles, so they're very quick to get through the corners, but it makes them a little unstable in a straight line. But they're also very powerful bikes. We said before they've got over 150 horsepower at the rear wheel. And as soon as you twist that throttle, you've only got a patch of rubber about the size of a cigarette packet, maybe the size of the palm of your hand. As we look at Troy Bayliss gunning this thing down the straight to start the last lap, we call it a thing. It's a bit of a beast. To ride one of these things flat out, hold on to those handlebars as it bucks and weaves, is not easy. They've got steering dampers and they brace the frame and they try to stiffen them up, but ultimately the power to weight ratio on these bikes even exceeds a Formula 1 car. As far as Group A supercars, as far as Formula 1 bikes, things like that go, these are production-based motorcycles and they're putting a lot of horsepower through 162 kilos. You nearly got a 1-to-1 ratio. And as we see there, Mark Willis desperately trying to stick with Buckmaster, looking for third place. But take nothing away from Troy Bayliss, way out in front. He's had an excellent ride once he threw off the challenge of Marty Craggle. Willis still trying very hard. But it's a great ride also from Sean Giles. This is one of the best performances we've seen from the Mobile RC45 so far this season.
Look at Willis on replay. It gives you an idea of what 150 plus horsepower can do. The rear definitely trying to overtake the front. It is your race leader though for the final time, heading for the double apexer to come on to Wayne Gardner straight. And what a performance from Troy Bayliss. This will make 4 out of 4, and that is maximum points in this, the second round of the Australian Road Racing Championships. Head down and heading for the flag. This will be victory, very sweet for Troy Bayliss. Gets across the line, waiting for Sean Giles in second place. And who will it be? Damon Buckmaster gets across the line and picks up a great third place. No lack of action there at Phillip Island. Well, that's it from us this week.
We're getting ready for race 2 of the Superbikes. This is what happened to leader Craig Connell in race 1. Watch this. Gets out and high sides, and it flicks him. Now watch the landing on his head and his back. Bang, a very, very heavy fall for Craig Connell, Barry.
Yeah, terrible fall. I can't believe they're letting him start in this.
Well, race 2, away we go. He is in this one. He starts the pole and he gets the start. Craig Connell, the Queenslander. A big fall in race 1, but he's back in it in this one. We get back to it. Damon Buckmaster's moved into the second position. Steve Martin third, but up the inside goes Troy Bayliss on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. Marty Craggle the outside line. Streaming underneath that Dunlop bridge.
Oh, look at Craggle.
Buckmaster moves into the lead. Craggle up into third, so it's Kawasaki, Ducati at the moment. Buckmaster and Craggle were going very well. Now, in terms of the championship, Barry, this one's coming right down to the wire, but Craggle only needs to finish in 10th or any higher, and he's got it.
Well, exactly. You know, if he breaks down and Troy Bayliss has to win it to win the championship, so I would say it's pretty safe with Marty at the moment.
Connell still maintaining that second position. The Ansett Air Freight Suzuki riders of Troy Bayliss and Mark Willis, who we've seen go so well this year. Well, it's a case of the walking wounded. They're both nursing very sore hand and wrist areas. Of course, Bayliss still got those fractures from Malala when he crashed very heavily. Whoa. And poor old Mark Willis crashed in Japan and also here yesterday.
The back end of Marty Craggill's bike just going out of shot there. It just got a major moment coming out of the left-hander onto the start and finish.
Troy Bayliss moves up into third ahead of Steve Martin. Marty Craggle now back in that fifth position. That's good close racing for third. We have a look. Looks like Mark Willis back there behind him. And yes, it is in sixth position. Then we pick up Ben Archibald and Sean Giles.
You see, the way Troy Bayliss is riding this race is the right way to do it. He's putting maximum pressure on. He's going as quick as he can to get up the front and hopefully get into the lead, and then hope that Marty is going to respond to the bait in that, you know, Marty's going to go and try and catch him. Well, it'd be silly on Marty's behalf if he does respond to it, because he doesn't need to win the race, and he should just not worry about Troy winning the race. You see how hard Bayliss is trying.
He's going very hard. The back end just stepped out there a little bit. Let's hope that Marty Craggle just relaxes and cruises around. He had a tough time of it yesterday in practice and qualifying. But in both qualifying sessions that he went out, or every practice session, in fact, he broke the screen on his bike. He was saying the bumps on the circuit kept pushing him up out of his seat and he's smashing the screen with his head.
Well, you know, the way Marty rides, he gets the thing out of shape a lot, and you think he's always think he's going to crash, as I've said before, but you know, that's the way he rides. Bayliss is doing a good job. You know, he's pulling Craig Connell back, and the Craig Connell, after that prang he had, I'm so surprised they let him start, even though he may feel all right, because he really did whack his head hard.
Well, I went down and saw Craig and the Ducati guys, and the back of his helmet, obviously he's not using the same helmet, he's got a new one. The back of it was just gouged out in the front. The whole entire helmet was virtually destroyed.
Yeah, it was a nasty prang.
So, the guys coming underneath the Dunlop Bridge. Connell still doing a good job holding out Bayliss, and Connell's teammate, Steve Martin, the other Ducati dealer team rider, starting to come up. Don't forget, of course, tonight you can catch round 10 of the World 500cc Championship. In fact, it will be run tomorrow between 11:30 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. That is the round from Brazil. Once again, Mick Doohan on pole.
Well, he's on pole, and if he wins it, he's won the championship. That's it. You know, he's got 107 points, and if you win, you get 25. So, you know, it's great, sensational, well-deserved. Oh, Bayliss having a look up the inside. He's trying hard, Bayliss. He's doing it the right way. You know, you have to... there's nothing really he can do about Craggill. He just has to kind of bait Craggill.
Speaking of World Championships, as we see Marty Craggill come up the inside. Marty, hang on to it!
Now you see, this is all because Bayliss is doing it the right way. He's going very, very hard, and you saw him there nip up the inside. Craggill nips up the inside of oh, what's the guy? Can't
Steve
remember.
Martin.
Steve Martin. He nips up the inside of Steve, and you know, it could have all ended sadly there.
Just about to say, while the action hots up, speaking of world champions, we must congratulate Ansett Air Freight Suzuki's Peter Goddard and his teammate Doug Poland. They have taken out the World Endurance Championship, winning the Le Mans 24-hour, the Spa 24-hour, and coming third in last weekend's Suzuka 8-hour. So congratulations to Peter. And also, 24-year-old Victorian rider Shane Watts. He has become Australia's first individual Enduro champion. He won the World 125 Enduro Championship. It makes Australia proud. That's
fantastic. You know, you can't say Australia doesn't make good motorbike riders or car drivers come to that.
We produce plenty of them as we watch the action here. It's Suzuki versus Ducati. Here goes Bayliss on the outside of Connell.
As if Bayliss has got to get past Craig Connell and try and pull back on Damon Buckmaster. Just let's have a look at the times. Then now you see Buckmaster's lapping in the 11s and the rest are lapping in the 12s. So I think as far as it looks time-wise, Buckmaster's got the handle on it.
Well, Troy's doing extremely well. Just keep in mind that it was a matter of weeks ago that he broke something like 4 bones in his hand and his wrist and also one of his toes. He didn't go to Suzuka as a consequence of that crash at Malala, so he missed out on being in the 8-hour, which he was very disappointed about. He's back here battling for the Shell Superbike Series. If it remains as is, it will go to Marty Craggill, but Bayliss isn't worried about that. He's still fighting it out. We've got a little over 1 lap left to go.
Yeah, and Bayliss has got a broken little finger as well. That is very painful. The Ducati, you can't live with a Ducati down the straight. You know, it's just clears off.
It's got the horsepower, it's got the grunt down the straight, but Craig Connell still can't catch Damon Buckmaster. You're good to see Damon get a win under his belt. He hasn't had the best of years either. He had a very heavy fall at the Winton round earlier this year and broke his collarbone. There he is on the Team Zurich Kawasaki, working his way around. Great young rider. He leads Connell, Bayliss, his teammate Marty Craggill and Steve Martin. They've pulled right away from the rest of the pack. Ben Archibald Willis is back there, Sean Giles, Greg Moss and Danny Vanellini.
Yeah, when you look at Troy Bayliss riding, nobody could try any harder than Troy's trying at the moment. The back end of it's going, the front end of it's going, and as I say, you know, he's doing everything he can, but there's no way they're going to catch Damon.
Well, last year, the Shell Superbike Series, not the Shell Australian Superbike Championship because this is the series, but anyway, coincidentally, both of those bike championships went to Ansett Air Freight's Peter Goddard. This year it's going to go into the hands of Kawasaki. This guy is his teammate Damon Buckmaster. He gets the win, and we must congratulate Marty Craggill. There he is with a big wheelie. Marty Craggill is the 1997 Shell Australian Superbike Series winner. Good on you, Marty.
It's so good for him. He has had so much bad luck in his career. You know, he hit a bird down at Phillip Island and it nearly made him lose the use of his arm, and that really put a hold on his career. You know, it nearly wiped him out altogether, and so sad because I really feel that Marty Craggill deserves. He rode the Elf 500 at the Grand Prix earlier on in the year, and by rights he should be on it now. You know, why on earth they're playing around with the other two guys? They should give Craggill a chance.
Yeah, congratulations to Marty Craggill and Peter Doyle and the entire Team Zurich Kawasaki Australia team. Good on you guys, well done. Here's the results from that second race though. Damon Buckmaster in for the win, he'll be happy with that. Craig Connell coming back from that serious crash. Bayliss in for third, Steve Martin in for fourth, and Marty Craggill rounding out the top 5. Mark Willis hung in there for 6th ahead of Benny Archibald, Sean Giles, Greg Moss and Danny Vanellini in 10th.